Okay, I'm sorry for that false start, but let's go over a few of the different kinds of variables. I'm not sure exactly which chapter this one corresponds to, this lecture, but I feel it's like supposed to be chapter 7. Anyways, an independent variable is one that causes a change in a dependent variable, and I like to think that this simply means that the dependent variable depends upon the independent one. It's a lot like life. A dependent child depends upon an independent parent. Our hypotheses imply this relationship sometimes, but not all of the time. Sometimes they merely imply there is a relationship. And if there's a relationship, it means that the variables in your hypothesis covary. A change in one predicts a change in the other. That's called covary. There's no direction necessarily to the relationship. You can sometimes find one, but you can predict if one changes in a certain regard that the other is going to change as well. Which does imply direction, but like in a qualitative study, you're not going to have that. But in my study, for example, if parents accepted their kids, then they were not homophobic. And we would say that rejection and homophobia co-varied. An increase in one predicted an increase in another. But that didn't mean that one caused the other. It has nothing to do with causality, it's just about prediction. So the hypothesis could have been, if parents reject their gay children, then the parents are likely to be homophobic. Or parents who reject their children are more likely to be homophobic than parents who do not reject their children. You can predict from that if you find it is true, but one does not cause the other. We know that we can find relationships in inquiry, but that sometimes a third variable is really what is causing the relationship to manifest. These alternative explanations, the things that seem to tie variables together, make them seem to predict one another, are called extraneous variables. In my study, we could have tested to see if the parents who rejected their kids we could have tested to see if the parents who rejected their kids who were also homophobic might have been raised by dogmatic, strict parents who didn't accept any cultural differences in general. This is called right-wing authoritarianism in the literature, and actually is an extraneous variable when it comes to people rejecting other people from other cultural backgrounds. We use control variables to rule out the possibility that they might be responsible for a relationship. What we're really doing is making sure that we can defend the relationship we find by saying, no, when we check for that, we didn't find a relationship that was significant. Or there was a relationship between the control variable and the independent variable and the dependent variable. But it wasn't a strong relationship. It wasn't as strong as the one we found between the independent variable and the dependent variable. We're going to go over this much more in depth in your statistics classes. You will go over them, but we'll go over it also a little bit next in the spring semester. If we say that there is a relationship based upon gender, for example, then we're saying that gender moderates the path of the relationship. People might reject gay boys more than they reject gay girls. So we would want to test that out. Be sure to examine gender and acceptance separately too. If we say that using an intervention like muscle relaxation, say, would probably be effective for people under the age of 70, then age is a moderating variable in that hypothesis. Although I can't really see why that would be the case. I was just trying to make one up on the spot. A spurious relationship exists when it no longer exists if you take away a third. A spurious relationship exists when it no longer exists when you take away a third variable, an underlying variable. So if I only like salad with creamy garlic dressing and you change dressings on me, I may not like salad at all. My love affair with salad is over. It wasn't the leafy vegetables I liked at all. Really, it was the creamy garlic dressing. In the same way, dressing is a mediating variable. Add it and I'll eat the salad. Just like when you teach kids to say please and thank you, assuming their peers and parents aren't telling them that that is for wimps, The ratings of their teachers regarding their interpersonal skills will increase if you teach them this. If their parents and peers aren't good role models for good manners, or worse, are modeling bad behavior, then this influence might mediate the effectiveness of teaching kids to say please and thank you in school. I think I've pretty much gone over the rest of the material in this chapter in the last lecture. Please look up hermeneutic circle and know what that means for the final. Like I said, if you're going to get a PhD, which is essentially a philosophy doctorate, you should know some big words. Also read pages 169 and 172 and be prepared to know something about the qualitative perspective on operational definitions. I think the book does a pretty good job of that.